What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah. Sorry, guys. I had YouTube opened on the other tab. I started talking to my ears. I freaked myself out there for a second. But what is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they are just a couple of days away from week 2 against the Denver Broncos, and there are some changes coming. Russell Wilson spoke today along with Justin Fields, but the big stuff came from the old QB1, hopeful eventually QB1, and where he currently stands with his calf injury, and maybe a different tone than we have seen in the past couple of days, past couple of weeks, really the past month, when it comes to Russell Wilson and that calf. And then, well, All Steelers Talk's about to break some news here. Pittsburgh Steelers are preparing to change their offensive line, a pretty big change along the offensive line. We're going to dive into that, what is to come, and why it's not the name that you're expecting to be moved that has been moved out of the first team lineup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as we do every single day, we'll dive into all your questions. So make sure that you're tossing them in the chat. Nick, it's a good one here today in the Berg. I leave for Denver tomorrow. Very excited to get out to Denver. I'm a big Denver guy. I got a buddy, one of my groomsmen actually lives out there. I'm a big, I don't know. I love the mountains. I love you. There's these little tiny towns all over the place. I'm a big little tiny town guy. Might drink a couple of brews because Denver's got some good breweries, and maybe I'll test the mountains and see if they turn blue, because Coors Light is rocking and rolling at all times out there. But how are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good. Most days when we get onto this podcast, I get jealous of you, because even whenever you're struggling with stuff that's happening at your house, I'm like, well, it would still be nice to have a house. But today I kind of reap the benefits of renting, because my garbage disposal was done for. It wasn't working. And I was like, oh, well, the good thing about renting is, one, I don't have to be the one to fix it. Two, I don't have to be the one to pay for a new one. And already, as we sit here today, I got a brand new garbage disposal. So it was taken care of. Great job by my maintenance. And the one time that I can actually say, thank God I'm renting.
Yes. I'll admit, I'll tell you right now, owning a house is fine. It's great. It's the American dream. That's what they say. You start to do things. You start to, you know what I mean? Like that second coffee is like, I don't know if I don't want to do that, because you just never know what's going to happen. And when it does happen, they're just the expenses that come that you didn't even realize come with the house. It's not as fun and glamorous as it looks. That garbage disposal would sit there broken for, I don't know, 2-3 years maybe before I said we're gonna fix this. So shout out to renting.
The reason it was broken, and we found out it was broken, is because it's also leaking. So it needed to be fixed.
That's good. Yeah, that's a little bucket, you know what I'm saying, under the sink, and then you wash it out and you hope for the best. That's what we'd be rocking with. All right, let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers football. That's what the people came to see. Russell Wilson spoke today. Both of the quarterbacks spoke, but Russell Wilson was the guy that I think a lot of people had their eyes on. Justin Fields, hey, you excited to start? Is it an easier week when you have the whole week to prepare? Both answers were yes. It's stuff you saw coming. Russell Wilson, a little bit different. He spoke about, well, the injury, where he's at with the injury, where he wants to be with the injury. And to be honest with you, the tone, it sounds like it's changing a little bit from where it was even a week ago compared to where it is now. Let's give it a listen.
Yeah, I was, mentally and physically just trying to get there, to go through the whole process. Yeah, I really felt. Coach and I talked on Sunday, we felt like it wasn't ready yet, trying to be smart. And I think it was a smart decision, in terms of we got confidence in our football team. That's a great thing about our team. We got a great defense. We got a great special teams. And offensively, we can do some really special things as well. So, I thought that was a huge win for us. The best part about that game is just running out in the Steelers uniform and just seeing the yellow towels everywhere. That was pretty cool.
When this first happened, did you expect that this would linger as long as when this first happened last week? Did you expect this might linger as long as it has?
I think when it happened in training camp, I was disappointed because I knew it was pretty strong, pretty good calf injury. And so that was disappointing, but we kept our head up. We worked our butts off every day, the training room and myself and Manuel and everything else. And we just spent a lot of time to just kind of get ready. And so when I tweeted again, it was like, okay, yeah, you got to be smart here and not crazy push it too bad. So I think that was the frustrating part. Obviously, I want to be able to be out there between the white lines of our teammates.
So the first thing that stood out to me, and I'm standing there, I'm right behind Joe Rutter asking that question, and it was a pretty strong injury. My eyes popped. What do you mean pretty strong? We were told for a whole month this was no big deal. This was not a serious injury. This was actually the smallest, least concerning injury of all time, if you asked Mike Tomlin and really Russell Wilson all throughout training camp and the preseason. Apparently, it was a pretty strong injury. He later talks about, I want to be 100% both mentally and physically before I'm back out there. Long story short, I don't know if Mike Tomlin had a conversation with Russ and said, hey, we're sticking with Justin until Justin loses the job, or if this is becoming progressively worse instead of progressively better with that calf injury. But Russ is, in my eyes, pretty far from returning. And what I got today was this is something that, Russ might not return from in 2024, at least not be a starter for in 2024, because, he was pretty clear there that this is something that's a little bit stronger than we anticipated, than he even opened up to and admitted early on. And him admitting that I don't want to use the word defeat, but it feels like it fits the narrative. It feels like that fits what went on there, that Russ is kind of admitting defeat to the injury and the circumstance. And we could shut down Denver in week 2. I think that's a given. The other part of this is we might be able to shut down a long run of, if Justin continues to win, doesn't matter how he performs, Russ is the number 2, maybe the number 3, because who knows what this calf injury means. Did you pick up the same watching that?
Yeah, especially whenever he said pretty strong. I was like, oh, this is definitely new information to me.
Yes.
And new information to everybody. It's unfortunate because I think a lot of people were excited about the prospect of Russell Wilson, a veteran quarterback, coming in with Arthur Smith, a veteran offensive coordinator. But at the same time, whenever you look at the way he was kind of talking, this is a guy that is always power of positivity. The way that he's talking there, you mentioned, seems a little defeated. It seems like he's basically admitting to the fact that, hey, this is like I worried about preseason. This is like Joe Burrow last year. The only difference is they have another starting quarterback behind him in Justin Fields, whereas Burrow had Jake Browning. So the Steelers are hinging the season not on an injured player in Russell Wilson, but hinging it upon Justin Fields, who, yes, has his warts. We understand that, but is a starting quarterback in the NFL, certainly more so than what the Bengals had last year. So this tells me, at the very least, this is going to be something that maybe he does come back and play. I'm not necessarily going to say that and go to that extent, but maybe this is something where he isn't going to be 100% at any point this year. And even if he does get into start, that is still worrisome that he's not going to have that full 100% opportunity with the Steelers in year 1.
Yeah, the way, even if they thought he was the guy, even if they thought Justin, didn't wow us enough in week 1, didn't wow us enough in week 2, and the Steelers are winning, but Justin's not throwing touchdowns and he's not turning the ball over. He's not losing games, but he's also not winning games for the Steelers. You kind of look at it and say there's a chance that the Steelers' mindset is that's still better than losing Russ for the season. Because if you lose Russ for the season, you only have Justin. You have Justin and Kyle Allen. So you really only have Justin. Where it sits right now, Russ might not be 100%, but you have him. He's available. He's there if you need him. He's the emergency quarterback. So worst case scenario, Justin gets hurt, you still have a backup. Justin doesn't play well, you still have a backup. I just think that the precautionary side of this, the Steelers might be looking at and saying, if we didn't have another starting caliber quarterback, if we didn't have another guy that we wanted, that we weren't intrigued by, we wouldn't even worry about this. But when you look at it and say, well, Justin's a guy that intrigues us, maybe Justin is the future, Justin has a bunch of potential, let's not take a risk on losing one of these guys, even if the initial plan was to have 2 and do it with Russ first. Well, got to be light on your feet. The plan changes. Now it's Justin being the starter. And this could be equal parts the Pittsburgh Steelers being cautious about the situation as it is Justin Fields impressing enough and them seeing, hey, look at this could be the future. This could be the next guy. We have to give him an opportunity. I think both things are playing a role here. But what I'm getting from Russ is that he is, for one, definitely not playing in Denver. I mean, there's no part of his interview, no part of Justin's interview, really no part of anybody who spoke today to the media where you sat there and said the door is still open for Russ to play on Sunday. And two, I think this is going to carry on much longer than we think. I would be shocked if week 3 is a week where, unless Justin really struggles against Denver and the Broncos walk away with a win, or the Steelers squeak by with a really ugly win, then I would say it's still Justin's game in week 3 and possibly moving forward. I think it's in serious question whether or not Russ actually does start for the Steelers. This is the first time I kind of saw maybe the stars are aligning there. Maybe even Russ is acknowledging it's coming to an end here. It's not a great situation for him and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you agree?
Yeah, and with an older quarterback, this is always something that you look at and say, all right, well, how long is it going to take him to recover from that? Because clearly it's going to take younger quarterbacks and younger players in general a lot less time. Russ is 35 years old, and albeit a player, a 35-year-old that has been pretty healthy throughout his career, he's only missed 5 starts in 12 years. When you deal with something like this, and I think Macaroni Salad said it in the comment section, especially, I mean, valid point, calf injuries lead to Achilles injuries. And we saw it last year with 2 older quarterbacks, and Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. The Steelers, if they don't have to be, hyperactive and trying to get him back onto the field, you're going to take as much time as you can. And right now it seems like they're taking it slow because of Justin Fields being able to get that win and look pretty good in that win against Atlanta.
Yeah, I want to answer this one real quick before we go over to the offensive line. If it's serious, why was Russell Wilson the emergency quarterback? He'll remain the emergency quarterback. So the emergency quarterback is essentially only there worst case scenario. If Justin gets hurt, if Kyle Allen gets hurt, the Steelers could put Russ in. He does not have to take up a roster spot on game days. So you still have your full 47-man roster, I believe it is, on Sundays without having to worry about a third quarterback. He also doesn't even have to suit up. That's a Russ decision there for him to suit up. So, which, you could say Russ is weird with a lot of things. Mason Rudolph also, he was suiting up last year too. It's just something that you're going to do. But it's really just an extra. You are going to take advantage of that situation if you can with the Steelers. That's why he's the emergency quarterback. There's no reason not to. It doesn't impact your roster really in any way. All right, let's talk offensive line here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are preparing to make a change, and it was a very stunning change that started to put itself into motion today. It's not James Daniels getting moved for Mason McCormick. It's not Brerk Jones moving to the left tackle. In fact, it's Troy Fautanu who's starting at right tackle. Dan Moore started or was on the injury report yesterday, dealing with an ankle injury, missed practice. Okay, cool. You're going to adjust. Brerk Jones is going to go over to the left side. Troy Fautanu is going to go to the right. That's how they were working in practice. Both of them were the number ones. Great. Today, Troy Fautanu confirmed this to me. Troy Fautanu remains the starting right tackle, but Dan Moore is back. And, well, it's not likely that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to bench him. So right now, the way it looks, and we'll hear from Troy here in a second, the Pittsburgh Steelers are rolling with Dan Moore Jr. And again, nothing's confirmed. Nothing is 100%, but it sounds as if this is the way things are going to roll in week 2. Dan Moore at left, Troy Fautanu at right. Let's hear what Troy had to say to me and other members of the media today.
I don't know. Nothing's really being said other than just be ready. Prepare like you're going to play. So.
Did you do that today, first team?
Yeah, I did. So you have to confirm with them.
How's it feel meshing with was that James?
It's good. He's very communicative. He talks a lot. He makes sure that he's kind of the, other than Zach, he's the other center. Him and Dan out there leading us. My job is just to play as hard as I can. So.
You comfortable, excited, like
yeah.
What are you thinking about?
I mean, nothing's really set in stone until Sunday. You know what I mean? But yeah, I am.
Remember, you're like finally, or I can't
excited.
wait,
Yeah.
or like.
I mean, of course, it's an opportunity. Hopefully, I'm going to go out there and try and take advantage of it, and then never look back.
It sounds like a guy who's, for one, excited. And you could see, when he was asked, are you excited? You anxious? What's going on? A big smile on his face. This guy's ready for the moment. How surprised? I was shocked, but I've had a couple hours to kind of let this sink in, move forward. Obviously, I had a job to do where I had to get the information to make sure that this was confirmed. I mean, I was texting you before this went down, before practice ended, like, yo, I'm going to try to get this confirmed, but we can't talk about it unless it is confirmed. Had to make sure I dove into reporter mode real quick there. You hear it. What was your, I don't know, level of surprise? And what are your thoughts on Dan Moore at left, Troy Fautano at right? It looks like Brerk Jones is the swing tackle.
Yeah, especially with Dan Moore coming off of a week where, he wasn't too concerned about it, but he was on the injury report yesterday. He did not practice on Wednesday. And I understand he's technically a veteran, but surprising that they would go right back to him and not give Broderick a nod at left. But at the same time, I mean, I'll ask you this. Does it seem like maybe they're just trying to have a little bit more experience on that offensive line, especially with Broderick not playing a whole lot of left as of late? And they're saying, let's not try to make that change. Put in Broderick at left at a position that he hasn't played in a little while, while starting a rookie who's making his first career start, while having two other players that are making their second career start, and then putting Broderick in that situation versus, Dan Moore, who had a pretty good game against the Atlanta Falcons and has plenty of experience and has never moved from left tackle. It feels like it's more about making sure there's a little bit of experience and not trying to change too many things on the line in 1 week.
I think that might play a role. But if I'm being 100% honest, it kind of just sounds like the Pittsburgh Steelers are starting their best 5 offensive linemen. And right now they are acknowledging that Broderick is struggling, whether that's the elbow, whether that's just a hiccup in development, whether it's a sophomore slump, who knows? But in my eyes, the way I am looking at this, it's Dan Moore is probably the Steelers' best offensive lineman outside of or alongside Zach Frazier. Spencer Anderson is in here to start, but there's nothing you can do there. James Daniels is going to start. There's nothing you can do there. Broderick's been the weak link. And if they believe Troy Fautano's better, I think it's just Troy Fautano's time to see if he could be better. And as a first-round pick, that's a guy you can rely on. And I don't think this is the end of Brerk Jones by no means. I mean, I don't even think this is a setback for Brerk Jones. I think it's simply if Brerk Jones wasn't on a bad offensive line, because he came into the NFL on a really bad offensive line, and he got an opportunity to start, granted the wrong side of the football, but he got an opportunity to start because of a bad offensive line. And everybody said when he came in here, Broderick's good, but you could see how raw he is. You could see how much development he has in front of him. You could see that he has a ton of room for growth, but he also has all of the potential to reach that growth. And I just don't think that he's there right now. And I think he's going to get there. I still think this doesn't change anything moving forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But right here where the Steelers currently sit, we're not going to take Dan out. There's no Dan hasn't lost his job, and Broderick hasn't won the left tackle job. So you're not going to make the change there. But maybe Troy is a better option at right tackle than Broderick is. And if Broderick could play both sides and be that swing tackle, okay, great. And, we'll see what happens by the end of the year, or maybe midway through the year if Dan starts to struggle. But right now he's shown us no signs of that. I think it's a next year you plug in Broderick and you hope that development's there. You spend extra time developing this season. But for right now, they're going to see if their best 5 does not include him. And I think there's a pretty good chance that it does, or that it doesn't, that he is not part of their best 5 currently playing. And that's just because whether it's the elbow, whether it's whatever, he just hasn't, he's had a tough time at the beginning of this year. And that went into week 1. I mean, not terrible. He wasn't as bad as he was in the preseason, but the Steelers obviously have reason to think that Troy Fautano could be better. And I just think they're going with their best 5.
Yeah, they drafted Troy Fautano to be their future right tackle. If he's ready to go, it makes sense to let him go and let him go and start this week. And it's really a reset for Broderick. It's, hey, we're going to try to get you back to left tackle. We know that you can participate at right tackle. We've liked what you've done at right tackle in certain instances. I mean, last year, there were a lot of games where Broderick looked really good on the right side, but they won him on left. So this is a reset for him. Get your feet back underneath you on the left side. And in the meantime, the veteran gets the start and Dan Moore. So the way I look at this is essentially, I mean, good for Troy Fautanu, who's going to get his opportunity.
Yeah.
He's a first rounder. That's where they want him to be for the future. They want Broderick on the left. This is a reset. Get your feet underneath you on the left. If you get an opportunity, go out there and kill it. And all of a sudden, like Troy said at the end of his quote there, don't look back at that point. That's what Troy's going to try to do. And I think when Broderick gets the opportunity, he's going to do the same.
Look, I agree. I agree. I want that to be very known. And I said that talking to some guys at practice today, like, I have full faith Broderick's going to be good. I have full faith that Broderick's going to be able to develop and become a really good left tackle. But it is something that we've talked about numerous times this offseason, that Broderick came into the league very raw, and maybe that's part of this whole situation, is he came into the league very raw. So maybe it's a good thing to spend some more time and develop him a little bit more, while Troy Fautanu is maybe, as crazy as this sounds, more pro ready right now coming into the league. Again, we'll see. 2 rookies on the starting offensive line worries me, but I won't lie to you. I would feel less worried if Broderick was in, or I feel less worried with Dan Moore in there than Broderick right now, just because Dan Moore has been reliable, and we'll see what happens. I still expect Broderick to be the franchise left tackle at some point, and I expect this offensive line to one day look Broderick, Spencer Anderson, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Troy Fautanu, and I think that's still coming, but for right now, they're rocking with Dan, and there's no reason to turn back. All right. With that said, we're going to jump into a break. When we come back, we will answer all of your questions. So make sure that you're tossing them all in the chat. And before we do that, we got a word from our boys over at DraftKings. What's up, guys? It's football season, and we've teamed up with DraftKings. Right now, new customers who bet $5 will receive $250 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, you'll receive 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. It's hard to think of a better way to celebrate fall weather, your favorite jersey, and Sunday touchdowns than with the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings app and use our promo code ALLSteelers. That's $250 in bonus bets instantly and 1 month of NFL Plus Premium after betting just $5. Stay in the action and use your $250 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You could still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ALLSteelers and bet just $5 on any wager and get $250 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSteelers only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Shout out our boys over at DraftKings. It's Thursday, my friend. It's Thursday. The Miami Dolphins, I think, are just 2.5-point favorites over the Buffalo Bills. Fun fact, Josh Allen's 11-2 against Miami. So, say what you want. I don't know. I'll tell you this one. Here's a good one. Who they play? The Raiders. The Baltimore Ravens are only 6.5-point favorites at home, coming off a Thursday night loss to the Chiefs that they were a toenail away from going into overtime. And they're only 6.5-point favorites over the Raiders, who look
on what book?
On DraftKings as of this morning.
Oh, interesting.
Are they not there now?
The one book that I was looking at was 9-point favorites, and I was like, dang, I missed the number. Let me double check. DraftKings here, though, the king.
This was the topic of conversation at lunch today, and it was 6.5.
Right now, it's 8.5.
8.5. All right, it's jump out of quick. I'd still take 8.5. I would take 9. If we're gonna be honest, I would take 9. I have a very hard time believing that scoring's up in the NFL in Week 1, and the Baltimore Ravens are gonna somehow make this a close game against the Raiders, coming off of a game that they believe they should have had an opportunity to win, and honestly didn't even look that good against the Chiefs, and they still came a toenail away from sending this into overtime. So those are my 2 big ones, but we'll dive into the Steelers bets tomorrow. All right. As we do every day, let's answer all your questions. I know we got a bunch of them. Make sure you toss them in the chat. We'll answer them before we head out of here. What do we got?
I know he's not worried, but Grayson wants to know if you're worried or concerned about George Pickens against Patrick Surtain. He could cause a lot of problems for Pickens on Sunday.
He could very much so cause a lot of problems for George Pickens on Sunday. George Pickens, I like that you referenced that there. He literally said, I care less. Like, whatever, man. He's a good player. There's a lot of good players in the NFL. I don't really care if he's going to follow me. I'm just focused on me. Cool, great. Look, if there's any corner in the NFL that George Pickens should be, I don't want to say nervous, but should be spending a little bit extra time trying to beat, it's Patrick Surtain, because that guy's a monster. He's hands down the best corner in the NFL. I don't care. You can fight me on it. I'll argue till I'm blue in the face. This dude's a monster. He does make me worried, but really it's not, oh, am I worried about George? It's, where's Calvin Austin? Is Roman Wilson going to play? Can he step up? Van Jefferson, what's going on there? Pat Freiermuth, are we going to use the middle of the field? And, well, is Justin Fields going to make some more moves with his legs? Because you're going to have to supplement the best cornerback in football playing your best wide receiver, and chances are George isn't going to win all those. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, a little bit worried. A little bit worried. That not so much for George. I think he'll be fine, but the rest of the wide receiver core.
I will add for George specifically. I mean, it's not like he faced a scrub in week 1. He had a pretty good week. I mean, AJ Terrell, it may not be the biggest name, but a very good cornerback in the league.
I agree. I definitely agree there. I think there's a gap between, I think it's Patrick Surtain, maybe like Jalen Johnson. And then there's a couple guys where there's like that AJ Terrell's tier 2 to me. And there's a gap between tier 1, tier 2 in my eyes.
Fair enough. Let's go over to Zai, who says, if Justin Fields had Lamar Jackson's playbook, could he be potentially MVP level?
I mean, I think if Justin Fields has a playbook built around him, he has upside to do these things. And I think at one point in his career, people expected him to do those things. But he played for the Bears with 3 offensive coordinators in 4 years, and things were not looking very good for him. And we'll see what happens on Sunday. This will be the first full week where the Steelers develop a game plan simply for Justin Fields in that offense. I have a lot of faith in Arthur Smith's playbook, so we'll see if he could just take a step forward. I'm not talking MVP, but just take a step forward.
Let's jump down to Barry's, who wants to know what's going on with the new signing wide receiver from the Saints.
Shaquan Davis, I believe his name is. 6'5" guy, looks massive. Look, I don't have any expectations he makes the 53-man roster. I know we were asked about this yesterday. I don't think that's what he's here to do. I think Ben Skoranek is the guy that gets called up on Sunday again. A trip over to Denver. Maybe at some point Brandon Johnson gets called up and you test him, but Shaquan Davis is not a dude who he looks big and he's super physical, but he just doesn't strike me as a guy that you're going to call up. Not yet. He's just a guy to have just in case, but I wouldn't look into it too much.
Let's go over to Zai again. He says, should the Steelers training staff be scrutinized for having a quarterback push a sled in preseason?
100%. 100%. I would love if Ben Roethlisberger answered this question on his podcast and we can know if he ever pushed a blocking sled in his entire career, because a 35-year-old quarterback should not be doing that. Your 25-year-old quarterback should not be. Why is your quarterback pushing a blocking set? Why? It makes no sense. They're never going to do that. You know what I mean? If Russell Wilson blocks somebody in a game, you're telling him when he comes off the sideline, great job. Don't ever do that again. That's what you're telling him. Like, this is not part of his job. It's not what you want to be part of his job. Yes, I believe it's a strength and conditioning coach, and there's 2 or 3 new ones. They should 100% be in some hot water for this one.
Let's go over to Jonathan, who wants to know, I really didn't see Corey Trice in week 1. Was he just locking up or was he even out there?
He played a handful of snaps, not a ton. Really, there's really no need for him, to be honest with you. Like, I'm looking at it and saying Dante Jackson he had 1 interception, should have had 2. Joey Porter Jr. completely took out Drake London. There's just no place for him right now. So usually it's a 1-2-3 rotation at corner. The Steelers were feeling pretty good and they weren't tired. So that plays a role into it too. When you're not staying on the field super long, you don't have to rotate guys as much. So I would imagine it was just no need to put your third guy out there. You know, you don't have to force Corey Trice into the lineup if you're the Steelers.
Marlon Lewis wants to know, do you think the goal is to have Broderick, Isaac, Frazier, JD, and Troy as the offensive line by mid-year?
No, I don't. I really don't. I think the goal is to have the best 5 out there, and I think right now Dan Moore is part of that best 5. And we could talk future and upside and so on and so forth. I mean, I would love for somebody to sit down and put a film review together about how Dan Moore has looked bad this preseason / week 1, because he hasn't. So the way I look at it right now, Dan Moore took a step forward this season, pretty big one. It's time to start acknowledging it and saying he's reliable right now.
James Reese, and honestly a handful of others in the comment section, want to know, do you have any update on Roman Wilson? I know he spoke to the media yesterday.
Yeah, he spoke to us yesterday. He said he's taking it day by day. He's excited and hopeful that he gets out there in week 2, but we'll see. Limited yesterday wasn't the best for him. I would hope that he's full today, but we'll find out probably about an hour now. If he's full today on the injury report, I would expect he plays on Sunday. If he's limited, I think that door is cracked, but it's not open just yet, and we'll see tomorrow.
Donovan wants to know, what major mistakes do you think would cost the Steelers the game on Sunday against the Denver Broncos?
Interceptions, turnovers, definitely turnovers. You won that game by putting yourself in good field position and not turning the football over against the Falcons, allowing everything that works very well on the team, on the roster, to just mesh. And that's what they have to do again this time. Run the football, protect the football, put themselves in scoring position. And look, you could not. You could look at it and say, maybe we don't score another touchdown. If you operate the same way you operate against the Falcons, your defense is going to shut them down. And if you could score 18 points on field goals, you might win another one.
Vibing with the Dogs wants to know, should we be worried about Patrick Queen?
No, we should not. I think the you want to talk about overreactions for week 1, the Patrick Queen, I don't want to call it nonsense, but the Patrick Queen narrative is hands down the biggest one. If you got 2 tackles, I get it. He missed 2 of them, but he was there. He was around the ball constantly. If you go back and watch the film, number 6 is there. Like every time he is there. And if that's what you got to do, if that's your 1/11th, I'm about it. That's okay. That's all you got to do is be 1/11th of this game plan. And if you're only allowing 10 points, no complaints at all by anybody, from anybody. And that's how I look at it. Just be 1/11th, and that's what he was.
Anthony wants to know, do you think the running game is going to be even better this Sunday versus what it was last game?
I don't know. Denver's defense is beat up a little bit. They have some new guys as well. So we'll see. I think that you'll get more running quarterbacks involved, like Justin Fields will be more involved with his legs. And you'll also get a little bit more Jaylen Warren. So I expect a more contributions from others, and hopefully that opens up everything else.
Let's go over to Jim, who says, should we talk to the Texans and go after Robert Woods, or talk to the Giants and go after Darius Slayton?
I'm not a big fan of Darius Slayton, but I understand the want to go get him. I get that one. So, if you think Darius Slayton's a move, I'm not going to argue it, because it's hard to argue against it. Like, personally, I don't like his game. Doesn't mean he's a bad football player. Robert Woods is a perfect match for the Steelers offense. Perfect. He could block as well as anybody in the league. He's very reliable with the set of hands. He's a quality route runner, and you can make that work. And look, he might be a number 3, but he was a number 2 for a long time in this NFL. And I think that he could step in and be in Pittsburgh a number 2.
Let's go over to Pittsburgh Heather, who says, who's the better group right now, the Steelers offensive line or the Broncos defensive line? Can the Steelers collectively get to 200 rushing yards for the first time this season?
Oh, 200 rushing yards is a lot of rushing yards. But I think there's a possibility. All you need is Najee to get somewhere near 100, and Justin Fields. Justin Fields put up what, 54? But without even recognizing that he was actually putting up 54. Like if Kenny Pickett or Russell Wilson or anybody else put up 54 rushing yards, you're like, that's a good day. Justin, you're like, I didn't even realize he did it. Like, what? That was a bad rushing day for Justin Fields. So I think it's possible. I think the Steelers offensive line is beat up, and there are questions there, but there are also questions to the Broncos D-line. So I would say it's an even matchup. It's a good matchup. Hopefully the Steelers take advantage of it.
Let's go over to Quentin, who has a special teams question. Says, will Corliss Waitman and Boz continue to click on Boswell's MVP push, or was Cam Johnston the holder that he needed?
So just to toss this, and this is nothing against Cameron Johnson. I think he's I'm very upset Cameron Johnston shut down, but Cameron Johnson never held. He was not a career long like placeholder in the NFL. So he came to Pittsburgh and learned how to do it. Danny Smith's got, I don't know what the method is, but he's got a method and he could teach these guys. Presley Harvin came in here. He didn't know how to hold. Jordan Berry, when he came in here, didn't know how to hold. Like he teaches them quick and they're good at it. So if Danny Smith gets them, even if it's for a couple of days, I think he can make it work.
William wants to know, Noah, who is your favorite player to interview?
That's a good question. It's a good, because there's like different guys. Like there's the guys I enjoy. Like Calvin Austin is the best person in that locker room, hands down. He great dude, fan of our friend of the show. Like, but you're not always looking to. I rarely interview Calvin Austin simply because there's really no reason to interview Calvin Austin. Best interview, like one-on-one sitting there. Cam Sutton's a good one, even though he's not there right now. Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter Jr. might be the guy. He might be the guy. He gives you great quotes. He's always very open. He's always very honest. And he's just genuinely a very good dude. So I would say Joey Porter Jr. would probably, off the top of my head, be that guy.
Broderick Wallace says, we didn't blitz much against the Falcons. Who gets the first sack off of a blitz this Sunday?
That's a good question. Can I toss Terrell Edmonds out there? Can I just make a bold prediction and go Terrell Edmonds?
That is a dark horse right there.
I think he's going to come off the edge some way, somehow. But if not, I'd go Landon Roberts. That would be my safe pick. My dark horse would be Terrell Edmonds.
I'll give you a third option. Peyton Wilson builds off of it. He can definitely get to the quarterback if he's sent. I'll give you that much.
He could. If there's an open lane, he's going to get back there faster than anybody. So that's a good one.
Let's go to Levi, who says, how much of this elbow can we say is leading to Broderick Jones's drama? The guy was absolutely moving people last year and turned the running game around when he got dropped in.
Yeah, he was, but he was also struggling as a pass protector. And I think that needed to be pointed out, that he was better than Chuks Okorafor, by far better than Chuks Okorafor, but he had his moments of struggle. Like he definitely wasn't a well-rounded offensive tackle. That being said, I'm not trying to bash Broderick Jones. I think Broderick Jones is the future. I think at one point he is the best offensive lineman in Pittsburgh. Zach Frazier might be stealing that title, but I think Broderick has the most upside of any of these guys by far, actually. But I think the elbow is definitely playing into it. I do think the elbow is more serious than they want to let on. And maybe it's the end of the year we find out. Maybe it's next year we find out, but I do think it's playing a role.
Let's go over to Alexander, who has a wide receivers question here. Says, could Cortland Sutton fit Arthur Smith's run-first play-action system better than Devonte Adams due to his size and blocking? Sutton's skill set seems more suited, despite Adams being the more talented of the two.
I think Devonte Adams is a pretty good blocker, but I'd have to go sit down and watch the film. Cortland Sutton is physical. He's been reliable there. He's a short yardage, but also deep. Like he could be a short yardage. He could be a deep threat, kind of depending on how you use him, but he is a physical body who could make it work. I think it works very well. I'm not going to say more than Devonte Adams. Those two would be my top choices, though. Like you want to talk John Mechie, I don't think he fits what the Steelers are trying to do. Devonte Adams and Cortland Sutton both definitely do.
Let's go to KDTV, who says, can Justin get 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown Sunday so my parlay can hit?
You better be paying out pretty well on that parlay. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Let's go over to Tyler, who says, how much better did you like Arthur Smith's play calling style? Do you think there's even more room for it to grow and get the QBs thrown more towards the middle of the field?
Yeah, Arthur Smith was very honest today that not throwing over the middle was him, and it was by design. He also, I don't know if you caught this one, said he was a Zin guy. Arthur Smith, Zin guy. Zin almost fell out of his mouth, he said, during the interview. So Shout out to Arthur Smith. I like Arthur Smith's play calling. I think it has room for growth and development. The bigger thing is I like the adjustments. I like Arthur Smith's adjustments because they were noticeable. And that's something that the Steelers haven't had in a long time is noticeable adjustments. So this is now an offense that can go into halftime, recognize what they're doing wrong and try to fix it. And that is massive in the NFL. So I think there's a ton of room for growth. I think the middle of the field will be utilized much more in week 2. If it's not, then we could have a conversation about if it's concerning. But for right now, with him admitting it was part of the game plan to avoid it because of the safeties, which I said on Monday, I said on Monday, you have the best safety combo in the NFL. Why are you throwing there? Why would you even think about throwing there? So we'll see in week 2, but I do think it was part of the game plan, and I'm gonna believe him until he proves me otherwise.
Pittsburgh Heather wants to know who gets more snaps this week, a Landon Roberts or Peyton Wilson?
A Landon Roberts. Landon Roberts only because Denver's going to run the football. They're a running team. They're not going to let Bo Nix ruin 2 games for him. He looked terrible. So, you're going to try to run the football. You got a good running game. The old saying is anybody could run in Denver. They're going to try to do it. That's a Landon Roberts specialty. So Landon Roberts.
Let's go over to Diana, who wants to know, do you think Jaylen Warren gets more carries this week than he did in week 1?
Maybe by like 2 or 3, but not by much. They're going to keep him pretty limited until they need to, closer to the playoffs. He's got a hamstring injury. It was untimely. Because of that, they will be cautious. It's nothing against him. They don't look negatively on him. It's more so they want Jaylen Warren for the playoffs. They want Jaylen Warren for a run. They're going to make sure that he's there and available and as close to healthy as possible by the time he gets there.
RJ Fresh wants to know, what's the deal with running the ball on 2nd and 3rd and long with Cordero Patterson? Is Arthur Smith going to be a run pass guy, or can you see him mixing it up a little bit?
I hope he mixes it up. Look at the first one, the 3rd and 16 or something. No, the second one. The second one was 3rd and 16. Mm-hmm. I get it. You don't try. Your quarterback is young and inexperienced and at least inexperienced within that offense. And, you don't really have the faith in him to make that throw. I understand that one. The first one that was like 3rd and 4 or something, 3rd and 6. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And if you are doing that, you better be going for it on 4th down because this is a 2-play situation. And he didn't do either of those. So the one is justified. The other one is definitely not. I hope it continues to change. I expect it to continue to change the more that Justin Fields plays and the more trust that he gets from his offensive coordinator.
The Steelers are notably playing at Mile High this week. So Mupp Hears wants to know, is Tomlin going to send Boz out for a 60-plus yard field goal on Sunday?
Probably, if the opportunity presents itself. I mean, that air is crisp and thin. So there ain't much pushing back, man. If you want to send that thing into orbit, send it into orbit Mile High. I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, I don't see why the Steelers would hold back.
We'll close it out with Two Right, who just wants to know simply, did Mark Robinson get any snaps last week?
Oh, I don't know. Did he get any snaps last week?
He got 0 on defense. He got 17 special team snaps, though.
Yeah, that's who he is. Like, he's a special teamer at this point. I don't expect him to play defense. He's a quality special teamer. They enjoy his special teams presence. He's like Tyler Matakevich. Both of these guys are here to play special teams, not defense. That's okay. They have 3 very good inside linebackers playing defense. So you could stick with that room. But no, Mark Robb, I don't expect to be a defensive guy in Pittsburgh anytime soon.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are going to head out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us. Again, I'm getting all screwed up on these intros. It's Thursday, man. It's a weird Thursday. Yeah, right? Detroit 5-Time News. That's what it is. It's got me razzled. With that said, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Tomorrow, I got to catch a flight to Denver in the afternoon. I know, bad timing, but would you schedule these 3 months in advance? You don't think about whether or not the quarterback situation is going to be what it is. So because of that, we will be rocking about 9:30 tomorrow morning. We'll keep you guys posted. Make sure you turn those notifications on for when we go live talking Brerk Jones what the offense is going to look like in week 2. And as we do every Friday, make our predictions against the Broncos. With that said, as I say every single day, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.